This is my first time being in Russia as a Syngenta employee, but I've been here many times in the past, and so it's always good to come back to Russia. This is a country that I enjoy very much, and this is a fantastic city. So good to be with you. I've had, as some of you know, some travel difficulties getting here, but persevered and was able to make it. And as Jonty said, I've had a great couple days. Really have learned a lot about what you guys are doing here in the local business, and I'm very encouraged by what I've seen. So we'll try to get through some of the prepared materials rather quickly, and then go to Q&A, which is, of course, the part of the exercise, part of the program that I enjoy the most. I like to start all of my talks with a values type of contact. Sometimes it's safety. Sometimes it's ethics, but for this one, it's about diversity and inclusion, something that I've talked a fair amount about within Syngenta, and I have to pause here and acknowledge how many women I see in the audience today, which is very encouraging. So here's to all the women in the audience. This is a great example of what we can do as a business, as a company, and as an industry. So congratulations to the team for what appears to be great diversity. This chart is actually meant to be a video, but the video link isn't working. And so I would encourage you to take note of the speaker. And on your time, when you have add some time, go to YouTube and watch the video. It's actually, I think, a very informative video. I will do a very poor job of trying to summarize it in the absence of the video. But the concept here is unconscious bias, and the speaker, as you can see, is a woman, and is a woman who works in HR, and she gives a bit of a testimonial about how you would think that somebody who's a woman working in HR would not have a bias against women, but she describes how when salary increase requests came in, she found herself more strictly scrutinizing the women request than the men request. And she describes in much more detail than I am here today about how all of us have some unconscious bias. And the best way to deal with that isn't to try to ignore it or pretend like it doesn't exist, but to acknowledge it, acknowledge what our unconscious bias is, and then put in measures to try to protect against that bias having an impact on what we do on a day-to-day basis. So please, when you have a chance, take a look at that video. The next chart is just a quick summary of the financials. You would have seen some of these in the half-year results. But I wanted to highlight the seeds results, which we had a very good half-year in the seeds business. We're up 5%. And you can see the breakdown by region. I won't go through all the details of this. 2% growth in the U.S., IAMI 10% growth, and you'll see the first thing noted there, of course, is the sunflower growth that this team continues to deliver, and really want to say thank you for that. This is a really strong business, as you all know, and is a big part of our overall seeds growth story. So thanks for your efforts there. More good things to come in this space. China, 37% growth. That looks great, and it is nice, but you'll note it's from a relatively small base. And so while we will continue to grow our Chinese business, the base of the current business isn't particularly large. Latin America was down 13%. A big part of that was because of market size reduction and some of the commodity price pressures that exist in Brazil primarily. And then Asia Pacific, a big part of the Asia Pacific business is yet to come. But Asia Pacific got off to a really nice start as well. So overall picture for our seeds business looks quite positive for the first half. This is a breakdown by crop. And you can see by crop, corn and soy, 3% growth. DFC, which of course is sunflower, very nice 8% growth. Veg, 5%, and flowers, 11%. So again, across their overall portfolio, looks pretty solid for a first half. Now, first half doesn't make a year. And we still have the second half to deliver, and many headwinds, which I'll talk some about in a bit. But as I said, nice start to the year. Now we're going to talk about Russia for a second. So these are your numbers, and you should feel good about these numbers for the most part. You've got nice growth, sunflower, corn market share growth, fantastic, right? I mean, Our objective, as we talk about in the global seed space, is to move from a distant number 3 to a strong number 3, challenging number 2. A big part of that is the ability to grow market share. So anytime you see sunflower and corn growing in a market, that's a real positive. You've got CP market share growth as well, but the comma after in that sentence, and the but is a big part of the challenge that you face. And I think Steve will talk a little bit more about this. So there's a lot of positives in this market, but it looks like we're going to miss budget overall. So, we've got to balance that positive with the market reality that we're in. So anyway, again, Steve, I think we'll talk about that a little bit more. High level of engagement is the last point, and this is important. A big part of what we're trying to do with the Pulse survey at an executive level, what all of our leaders are trying to do across the overall organization, is really enhance the amount of engagement that we have in the company. And I see great engagement. I've seen great engagement in the 2 days I've been here. Quite frankly, I see great engagement across Syngenta in almost every market that I go to. So let's keep that up. Engagement is about energy. It's about listening to our employees. It's about engaging with employees and having a good two-way dialogue. Okay, so you've probably seen me either in person or on video talk about this chart. This is the 5-pillar approach to our seed strategy. I talked about what our vision is. The first pillar is about customer focus. The seed business, as a general rule, is very much a customer-based business. And when I say customer in this context, I'm talking about farmers. It's not channel partners, it's farmers. Channel partners are very important, but our seed business and the strategy that we have for our seed business is about getting much closer to our customers everywhere that we operate. And there's a lot of examples of that. I saw some great examples of this just this week in some of the end-to-end planning work that you guys are doing. That's a great example of how taking a full end-to-end plan using a tactical plan and an account plan really drives a lot of execution discipline, and it puts the customer absolutely at the center of everything that we're trying to do. So great work on that. Please keep that up. Matching the right resources to the right opportunity. Not all markets are created equal. Not all crops are created equal. We have a very clear vision and a very clear strategy that looks at the biggest geographical opportunities, looks at our portfolio, looks at the crops that are big enough for us to make significant R&D investment. Because at the end of the day, that's what we do. We bring innovation to farmers. And by doing that, by having that lens, it allows us to invest at the appropriate scale to be able to be competitive with our competition, but also to continue to drive innovation and bring innovation to farmer customers to help them solve problems. So you're seeing that. You're seeing more of a discipline in this space, which is very much linked to the second or the third point, which is invest in R&D. We invest over $1 billion a year in our R&D organization. That's a lot of money. Our competitors who are combining, Bayer, Monsanto, Dow, DuPont, are going to be investing more than us with the trajectory of what they've done in the past as separate entities. So we have to really work hard on how we invest, where we invest, and this is important, invest to win. One of the things that I believe is a recipe for losing is to take an investment amount and spread it too thinly across too broad of a portfolio. So we're getting much more purposeful about where we invest, and we're investing to win. We're also utilizing our unique and I believe strategically advantaged position of being privately held by a Chinese company. And those are two really important things for us, particularly when agriculture globally is going through a bit of a downturn. Having private ownership and having Chinese ownership, which is very unique, will be a big advantage to us, trust me on that. Aggressive pursuit of M&A. I've got a chart, I think the next chart, that shows some examples of what we're doing in M&A. As a distant number 3 in seeds, we're obviously starting quite a ways back from our two major competitors. We've got a very aggressive organic growth plan, so we're going to get bigger naturally, doing things better and through internal investment. But we also have to bring in new assets through M&A, through mergers and acquisitions. And we've been able to do some of that already. We'll do more of it in the future. And then the last one, the fifth one, is determined execution. And I talked a little bit about this with the leadership team this week. I'm a big believer in strategy. I think you've got to have the right strategy to be successful. But strategy is only a portion of the game. You've got to have a good strategy, and then it's got to be about doing what you say you're going to do. And that's one of the reasons why, again, I really like the work you're doing in the end-to-end space. Driving that kind of accountability throughout the organization is the right way to run a business. I also think it's a more fun way to do things, because it's not an us versus them kind of mentality. It's not, boy, we could have sold more if supply would have given us more. I'm sure you guys have never heard that. Or, the sales guys can't sell what the R&D guys produce. What's the problem? This is about really coming together as one team, cross-functionally, and executing. And there's a real pride when you do that and you do it well. And so that's what we're doing. This is just a quick example of some of the M&A that we've been able to successfully complete. We did the Nadera deal, which is a very large deal for us in Latin America. That integration is going quite well. Now, the Latin America market is really struggling from an oversupply of seeds, and there's a lot of pricing pressure. So we're dealing with some macroeconomics in that market right now. But in terms of bringing Nadera and Syngenta together, that process is going very well. And obviously, Latin America represents a really critical market for us for seeds and CP. And our ability to have a strong position in Latin America is critical to our overall success. We've done a joint venture in China with a seed company called Longping. We've done an acquisition in the vegetable space with a company called Abbott & Cobb. That's an acquisition. We've done some digital acquisitions as well. And we continue to be very active in this area. And I'll just say one of the other takeaways that I have from this trip is just how much of an opportunity digital ag represents in this market. Digital and the ability to connect with farmers through digital tools is the future. You layer that on top of using things like machine learning and analytics. That's the next big wave, I believe, of innovation that'll come to agriculture. And the scale that you have in this market, the brand recognition that you have, the trust that you have with customers, and the fact that nobody is an established footprint makes for this market to be one of the absolute must-win areas for us for digital ag. And you might be happy to hear, I'm also a very strong advocate for a disproportionate investment in this market because of that. So those are all things that just line up very well for me, and I think you'll see a lot more of that in the future. Business improvement. So, whenever I go somewhere, it's inevitable. There's the friendly welcome, and then how's you doing? Can I get you coffee? And then here's the amount of money we want you to invest in our business. Jonty didn't do that. Yes, he did. No, it absolutely is part of the program, and I get that, and that's good. That means that you and your leadership are confident in your plan. You want more resources to be able to go after the plan. These are all good things. And I come to a market like this, I'm shaking my head yes a lot more than I'm shaking my head no. But a big part of our ability to invest the way that we want to invest is by continuously improving our productivity. Productivity is about doing things in a more efficient way. It's about doing things in a better way. And ultimately, it's about serving our customer better. But by finding inefficiencies in our business and driving those inefficiencies out, it creates opportunities for us to reinvest because it creates new money. And what I would show you, and there's several examples here in the business improvement area that we kicked off across Global Seeds earlier this year. We've got a $300 million target, over a 5-year period. And I can tell you that we are about 90 99% of the way there of identifying all the projects that will deliver $300 million of productivity improvement over a 5-year period. I think that number is going to go more like 4, maybe 500 million, because we just got started with it. And the thing I love about these projects, these aren't about cost cutting per se. These are about doing things in a better, more efficient way. This example on the bottom, I know I'm supposed to stay in this space, but this example on the right just shows the way somebody is emptying out this truck. And it's a safety risk to have somebody standing up on top of the truck like that. They could fall off, some can swing. We've got a do system that allows it to happen at the bottom of the truck, which is safer for the employee. It's better for the seed. It allows us to be able to do the process in a cheaper, more efficient, safer way. There's several other examples like that, where we've got ideas that have come up from people who are doing their job every day and may have thought, man, why don't we do it this way? If we only did it this way, you know, we could avoid rework, or we could avoid shipping seed someplace where it doesn't need to go. This is what I'm asking for. I'm asking for all of you to collectively come up with ideas on how we do our business in a better, more efficient way, so that we can get those ideas onto our project plan. Some of these plans, or some of these projects do require some small investment, but all of that investment has a good return on investment, so that we can hit that $300 million target.
So I've been here a few times over the last year or so. Great to be back. And of course, really good also to be in the field and of course, spend time with the team here today. I think just a couple of messages from the region, and then as Jeff says, we'll move into questions from the overall team. I think if I can connect actually to Jeff's point around productivity, just a couple of things we've done at the regional level so far this year. The first one, and actually Gail here is part of that, because of course he's moved to Budapest. And the one thing we did at the region level is we reorganized from 8 territories to 4. And very much of the spirit of that was around productivity, being closer to the markets, closer to customers, and also simplifying the business overall so we could bring decision making closer to the market. But overall, I have got quite a lot of positive feedback as I've traveled in the markets, where 8 to 4 means less interaction, if you will, from the region and global into the countries, but more territory to country, which of course is a lot closer to the market. So I hope you're starting to feel that and see that, and for sure want to hear your feedback as we go forward. The other thing, of course, and again, Jeff hinted at it, the market's evolving. We know competition's changing. We've had an integration in the industry. The overall value of the industry has been disrupted somewhat as compared to the trend the last few years. The good news is the crop prices are coming back, so that's getting a little bit more positive than for sure when we were here only a few months ago. And in that regard, we've stepped back as a regional leadership team, which of course Gail is a member of, and we've tried to look at the market going forward 5 years in the overall European context. What does it mean? Things like regulatory in Western Europe, you've maybe heard some of those things or read on the intranet. We've certainly got the growth aspirations in the seed area. We've got the overall seed strategy that you've seen here. We have the crop protection strategy around expanding into mid-tier and new product launches, and also a desire to be closer to customers. So we tried to put all this together as a regional leadership team and really take some positions on a few things directionally, and then bring that framework into the planning process for the 5-year process and the budget process for 2019. And you just had your budget presentation, I guess, to Gail, John T., and many of you would have been involved in that this past week. So that's what we've been working on at the regional level. And look, you know, any questions in that regard would be helpful. I think the second area I wanted to talk about is the performance, and Jeff touched on it a little bit. He showed you the overall the performance from a seed perspective as it breaks down by region. And you've probably seen some of the regional results, and in particular the half-year results. I think the summary statement is it's a lot like here. We've also had weather challenges, late spring. We've had drought across all of Europe. In fact, as you know, this is really a global phenomenon at the moment, which is a bit unusual. But we had a tough start, a really tough start in the first quarter. And what I particularly like is the response. And that brings me, I think, overall onto the Russia performance. as Jeff has said, and I'm sure you've heard from Jonty and the leadership team, probably won't make the budget this year. At the same time, we know the history here of a very high-performing business. So I don't worry about your conviction to grow the business going forward. What I like, though, is how you've turned that conviction and that performance mindset and how you've managed the P&L this particular year based on the market situation. So I for sure understand the difficulties when we try to pull back some expenses in season, in particular in a business that's been delivering and you're aspiring to grow. And the good news is, so far we believe, I think, Yuri, we do see growth from a market share perspective, which is the KPI we were looking for against a more difficult market. But how you've managed together in a difficult market, that's for me the takeaway so far for the performance in Russia this year. Let's see where you end up. Last year, I think the last 60 days turned out very strong. Maybe in some ways too strong if we think about the start of this year, but we'll take that as a learning, and so my best of luck to you for the rest of the year. The future growth that we see in this market, and of course I heard about that from customers the last couple of days with the central team. We have a strong leadership position not only in sunflowers, and I do look forward to the celebration for the 1 million units whenever that is. You know, maybe I'll get an invite for that even by video, that's okay. And look, the future is bright here for sure. And when we come back to the question that we spoke about as an RLT on the future of the region and where are we placing our best bets, I can assure you it continues to be here in Russia. We see the East as a continuing growth engine for the region overall. We see not only a strong market, but also the portfolio that we're bringing into the markets here is absolutely fit for purpose. And importantly, we see the building of the capabilities, not only at the customer level, but within our own teams, as